My name's Porch. I'm a research geneticist at the USDA ARS in Mayagüez, Puerto Rico. This is our research farm where we do a lot of our work on fruit crops, on sorghum, but also on common beans. In the process of bean breeding, winter nurseries are crucial, especially for temperate area zones. So the United States, you only plant once a year. Here in Puerto Rico, we can plant 3 times a year beans. And so we make a lot more progress during a year in terms of generational advance. You have a location like this where we have highly weathered tropical soils versus very sandy soils in Wisconsin, for example. These very conditions then lend to being able to test beans over very broad environments. So when we have a release of a bean in North Dakota, for example, you want it to be able to produce year to year. And year to year conditions vary a lot. So by developing a bean that's adapted to different conditions, then you ensure you have good productivity each year and every year. I grew up in Latin America until I was about 5 years old. And my favorite food was beans and rice. And it was interesting because I worked in other crops, brassicas, corn, and came back to beans in the end. And so I did my PhD degree on heat tolerance in beans, and then worked on corn as a postdoc, and then came back to beans for my career. If you think about a source of protein that has minimal impact on the environment and is very sustainable in terms of its productivity, the legumes are it. Comparing them to meat-based sources of protein, it's many times more the quantity of water to grow 1 pound of beef versus 1 pound of beans. So if we want to use less water, if we want to produce more for a growing population, if we want to have an impact on carbon sequestration, all these really important areas, it's important to be able to think about pulses as an alternate form of protein in one's diet. When we're talking about food habits, that's at a different level too. I mean, people have grown up with certain dinner, breakfast, lunch that they're used to. And so that's a very difficult thing to change. I think gradually as we have generations grow and become accustomed to what we're dealing with in terms of climate change, it kind of opens their eyes as to the sacrifices each and every one of us has to make. Some of those are easy, some of those are more difficult, and it doesn't need to be a dramatic change, it can be a gradual change. Beans are a critical crop for the future, and thankfully for the research community that we have, we're at this time keeping up with the changes in climate. So I'm very optimistic about bean consumption in the future.